Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hartman Golf. Today we're going to do something a little differently. We're going to talk about our thoughts on some of the new upcoming changes in golf, such as the rollback, the USGA handicap change, and some thoughts we have that we generally wanted to share, like playing from the forward tees if you can't break 100, or maybe pace of play, or some leniency on the golf course. I'm Sean, and this is Fazah, and I guess we'll jump right into it. So one of the big things recently has been the golf ball rollback, right? Mm-hmm. And how they want to, kind of shorten out some of these courses and bring some of the old courses back into play because players are hitting it much longer off of the tee, and some of their iron shots are pretty compressed nowadays. So I know you wanted to jump into that, so let's start.
Not a fan. Really, who does this hurt but the average player? The tour player hits it far enough that they're not going to see that big of a difference in their yardages, I don't think. But I did some research, and the average golfer hits his driver 225.
Okay.
You roll that back 95%, and that's 214 or something like that. And 7 irons about 155, and you roll that back, and they go. I figured that out too. It's back to about 145. Normally, they hit a 7 iron 145, so that's a 370-yard par 4. Right. 225, 145, right? You roll those yardages back, and now you're hitting driver 5 iron into the same 370-yard hole. What's the dispersion on a 5 iron?
That's a lot wider.
7 iron. And the average golfer, 18 handicapper, 15, 18 handicapper, their 7 iron dispersion is probably not good anyway. Now you're rolling it back to a 5 iron. Pace of play is going to go worse. Their score is going to be worse. If their short game is not very good. So, and I know ball manufacturers probably are not happy with it either.
Yeah, Titleist CEO or the president of Titleist came out and was saying, it's going to affect their production for sure.
Right.
And I think we'll see that through the entirety. And I even thought about, what about direct to consumer, like Vice, right? We have Vice golf balls that are out there that are more direct to consumer. How does it going to affect them? Because they're big enough, right? But they have built this product being more on the budget-friendly side, so to speak. So what are we going to see margin-wise there, too?
Yeah.
So I know there's some PGA professionals, like Rory was big in saying he's for it. Tiger has been for it. There's a couple that are for it, but that doesn't seem to be the message from the PGA professionals.
No.
I think there's a lot of PGA professionals, I think you told me that are actually against this rollback.
Yeah, I saw an article online where about 28,000 PGA professionals are not happy with this. I talked to a local guy. He was a former club professional at one of our country clubs here in Lebanon, and he said, with speaking with some of his buddies, that they're not happy about this at all, because now, your inventory is going to have to change for the pro shop. So if you have, 15 dozen just Titleists sitting around that are not conforming anymore, what do you do at $55 a dozen?
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound like a lot of money to some people, but if you have, 10 dozen of those sitting around, that's a lot of money for a pro shop, for a local golf course maybe that's struggling just to keep above water with, the pandemic that we had, and now golf's, I think, coming down a little bit with play. So what are they going to do? Mark the new balls with some kind of stamp that says this conforms?
That was my other question. Is we have so many golf balls out there right now. How do you enforce that? Because the Pro V1, Pro V1X, TP5s, they don't have a year dated on them. Nope. It's just the newest model on the box. So how do you enforce that for tournament play?
You call somebody a cheater. I don't see the ball manufacturers going, okay, so we got to change everything, and now we got to put a new stamp on the ball.
Something, that's conforming. Or are we going to see ball testers at tournaments to make sure it's the new one, like different compression on the ball?
I don't know.
But it is interesting. I know, for me, I'm interested to see what the difference is in drives, because I don't compress the ball like a tour pro, but I think I'm a little better than the average amateur. But it's going to be interesting to see, if it's driver 5 iron for me too, because I think that will affect me.
I don't think so. I looked at my Arco shortages from the last 2 years, and if I do the same 370-yard hole, normally that's a driver, sand wedge for me. driver 56. So if I roll those yardages back, it goes like the driver gap or driver pitching wedge for me.
Okay.
Because I can still compress the ball as good as most players.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to affect me that much. Maybe I have to hit a soft 8 instead of a smooth 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a hard 8. So I don't think it's going to affect me that much now at 61, but 4 or 5 years from now, I'm sure my swing speeds are going to start to suffer.
Absolutely.
Unless I do some kind of swing speed training.
Yeah.
But there's going to be something that's going to come down the line. I think it's going to, club manufacturers. So now you've strengthened the clubs 2 degrees, right?
Okay.
So my new set, right?
Yeah.
My clubs are 2 degrees stronger. So what's to say they can go, okay, let's jump them 2 more degrees. That adds 5 yards to every club.
Yeah.
Jump 2 degrees, 5 to 10. So now instead of a 6 iron, you have a 5 iron in your hand, but it says 6, but you're hitting at 5 iron distances.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, it's just...
Yeah, and we'll see. Like, I want to touch on one of the USGA rule changes, and this is coming a little later, but it ties back to this conversation because I think it's, I think the USGA kind of contradicts themselves in the 2024 version of the handicap index and the golf ball rollback. So we'll touch on that in a bit.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing, I've found an interesting, I don't know if it was a clip on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, pars on golf courses. Should they take them away? So
I saw that article.
Yeah, so there's the idea that what benefit is it to say this 370-yard hole is a par 4, or maybe some people play it as a par 5. It's not going to change probably how you play the hole knowing what par it is, and it's not going to affect your score in the end.
This is my argument with the USGA, making a 520-yard par 4. Doesn't matter what the yardage is, it wouldn't matter what the score is.
Right.
So if a tour player is hitting driver 7 iron into a 520-yard par 5, who cares? They make a 4, it's a 4. Whether it's a birdie or a par, who cares what it is?
Yeah.
So when I was in the business and I was a club professional, what I would do when I would teach people lessons is teach them to play bogey golf. So if your par is 370-yard par 4 and your goal's a 5 and you make bogey in every hole, you'll shoot 90 on most courses. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to impact the industry or not because it's so set in that par.
Yeah, 100%.
You want to get that par number. I think it still stays there.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if you wipe it off the card completely.
Yeah, that would. It's just an interesting for like amateurs, right? Because obviously for tournament play, you want to know what they're over or under. Right. I like to compare myself to par, but when I was thinking about this, I was like, it is interesting because I don't think it would change how I played a hole, and it doesn't matter. I think it makes it more fun. Like, I got a 5 on that hole, but it doesn't matter if it was a par 4 or par 5 or whatever.
Correct.
It's like I'm still going to bogey a hole. I'm going to bogey a hole, right? So, it was just interesting to see if they wiped them off for amateurs and.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that you have to look at though is handicap though, like where you were going with this. So if you just don't make any pars, you just get a score for a hole, then an aggregate score for 18 holes, what is the 77?
Yeah, that's true.
Compared to what you should have shot for that length and difficulty,
right.
Slope and everything golf course. So I think that's the only place that it'll affect that because now, I shoot 85, but where are you playing?
Yeah.
You're playing Pine Meadows from the tips, which is almost 7,000 yards, or you're playing,
Augusta.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Or I was thinking, what's the course over here? That real easy one that par 4s are like 260 yards.
Lebanon Valley, I think.
No, not Lebanon Valley. I can't think of it.
Treetop.
Yeah.
Treetop.
Well,
Yeah.
you and I could shoot 65 there easily.
Yeah, because the
So
par
what are we-
65 or something like that. Yeah.
Plus 6s now?
Yeah.
Every time we play, right? We'll go to plus 6.
Yeah, and so that brings me into the next thing of, I also saw another clip or an article of the way golfers should break scores in order to advance tee boxes. Mm-hmm. So the theory is every new golfer starts from the forward tees, the red tees, the gold tees, whatever. Until you break 100, you can't move back, right? And then, as you break 90 from that next tee box, you can move back, and then finally you work your way till you're shooting in the 70s from the tips. Thoughts on that? Do you think that's a good idea or not?
Absolutely, because how many times have we been at Iron Valley, which is one of the toughest golf courses in this area?
Yeah.
Not only distance-wise, but trouble-wise. And you see somebody out there playing from the third set of tees that has no right playing from the third set of tees, and I'm going to shoot 125.
Yeah.
What fun is that for them? But I agree that it's an ego thing for guys, though.
Yeah, it is.
I don't want to play from the forward tees. Those are the women's tees.
Yeah.
And I know they're getting away from that terminology, but I don't ever think that I want to play from the forward tees, not with the way I'm hitting the ball right now.
Yeah.
Until if I can't break 90 from the white tees, then maybe I need to move forward.
But even if you, like the caliber golfer you are right now, if you played from the forward tees, you might shoot pretty low, and that might be fun too.
Yeah, sure, it would be fun, but it wouldn't be a challenge for me. Like over at Lebanon Valley, every forward tee par 4 is like 245. Well, I got my 3 with that. My 3 hybrid almost to it. A 5 hybrid and hit 225. I can, and I'll shoot 65, or 68 maybe, but it doesn't help me as a player.
Well, I think there's an argument against that, though. Like, Bryson DeChambeau, one of his coaches, made him play from the forward tees, and he was shooting the ball, but he needed to learn to score like that. And so it gets into your mind like, okay, I can do this. I can hit the ball up to, 6 feet from a par 4, and I need to make that putt. It puts pressure on making eagles and birdies versus saving pars, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can see it, and I think it'd be fun to do. I think, maybe not all the time, right? But if you're in a struggling scenario where you're just not scoring well, or you're, let's say you're a scratch handicap and all of a sudden you're shooting 10 over consistently, maybe you push it back to the forward tees, have a little fun, hit some hybrid sig greens, putt for eagle, and get your mentality a little better going back into the game.
I actually did that at Pine Meadows last summer. I played from the forward tees, but I wasn't allowed to hit anything more than a 5-iron. So I wanted to groove my 5-iron tee shots. So I played from all the forward tees. I was hitting 5-irons on every tee box.
Yeah.
For the par 4s, par 5s. Even the par 5s, I wasn't allowed to hit driver, which pushed me in a position where I had to lay up because I'd be like 360 away from the, whatever.
Yeah, par 5, yeah.
And so I, hit nice smooth, like 6-iron down there to 120 yards, and I had my perfect gap wedge, distance to go in. So, and I didn't score any better. And I didn't score any worse. I think I shot like 78 or 77 that day. But, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's a great way to practice.
We should do
irons
a
off the
challenge
tee.
like that this summer.
We should.
Forward tees.
We should.
50.
Yeah, so, and that kind of rolls into the pace of play topic I wanted to touch on. And for me, what I thought about when we were talking about the forward tees, I remember one time we played this past summer, and we saw a female golfer hit driver on a par 3 from the forward tee boxes. And there was, unfortunately for her, a pond in front of the par 3, and she hit like 5 or 6 balls off the tee. Driver couldn't get there, right?
She's tin cupping it, ball man. She kept, we watched it. We're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, and she kept hitting, and finally the driver, she hit a good driver, and it went over onto the green. But there was such a backup at that tee box, and it wasn't her fault for that one because she was waiting on the tee still.
No.
But at what point is leniency allowed on, maybe for new golfers, right? So I know for me, when I see a bunch of kids play, I'm not super worried about my timing because I want them to have fun in front of me. But when I see a grown man or a grown woman hit driver off of the forward tees and it's taking them 6 or 7 shots, then I get frustrated.
Yeah.
That for me is like, okay, you're not having respect for the people behind you now because you just took 6 tee shots and they all ended up in the pond. So I guess my question for you is, where does your leniency come into play when you're looking at golfers in front of you or, slower players in front of you?
Well, at some point, you got to, say to yourself, okay, this is not working. What I'm doing is not working. I'm hitting driver off this tee, and I hit 5 balls into the pond. It's only a 120-yard carry. Go carry it to the other side of the pond and hit a ball. Drop something. Be aware of the people behind you. And I think that's been lacking with new players, that they're not taught the etiquette.
I agree.
Of what is expected on a golf course. Fix your divots, replace, rake your bunkers, make sure you're not driving, 20 yards from the green. Keep your course away from the green. The music, which I don't even want to get into because that's a sore subject with me.
Yeah.
But if you're on your 8th shot and you're 150 out, it's time to pick it up.
Yeah.
Or move to a place where on the course, okay, I know I can't hit my driver more than 200. I can't carry 200. Now I'm on a par 4 that carries 215 across the pond. Well, just go lay it down and play 2 from the other side of the pond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's frustrating for most older players like me who've been taught that, like, hey, here's the etiquette, to keep up with the group in front of you. That's the idea. And if you can't, then pick the ball up and move.
Yeah.
Because that's what I would do when I would ranger at the public courses that I worked at. When I was becoming a teacher, I was teaching professional on a golf course, and I would run the tee in the morning and then ranger in the afternoon. And that's all I told the guys, man, if you can't keep up with the group in front of you, just pick the ball up and move up and, keep pace of play. Because you're going to ruin the days of everybody behind you.
Yeah, and obviously on the course, that backup is kind of like traffic, right? Once you get one person stopping, it's just going to, it's a domino effect.
It's a snowball effect, absolutely. Yeah. And it's frustrating. You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Watching the guy chop it 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards, and he's topping it every time. Go get some lessons.
Yeah. Or another thing I thought about too is like, be mindful if you're a new golfer, what courses you play, right? Like, Treetop around us is a very easy course.
Yes.
It's a short course. There's some par 3 courses. If you're just learning, go to those areas, because when I'm in those areas, I'm expecting new golfers. I think when I'm at a par 3 course, I know there's going to be kids playing. I know there's going to be new people trying to hit some irons, and that's okay. And I understand that. And those shorter courses allow for the pace of play to be slower. And I think as a new golfer, that's something that should be considered, like where you're playing as well. So like you said, Iron Valley is a very tough course in our area. It's frustrating to see people topping the ball off of the tee consistently, topping the putts, can't get up on the green, the chip shots are just being bladed over the green constantly. And you think to yourself, like, okay, if they're a new golfer, I'm trying to be patient. But at the same time, I think that takes me out of my focus, because now I'm waiting every single shot, every tee box. The people behind me are hitting up on me now, and I get frustrated with that. So, it's just, I think as a new golfer, being mindful of where you're playing and how you're playing, because I think etiquette is a big thing too. Like, I think I get more frustrated with people that have a lower etiquette knowledge. Like, if there's a bunch of kids in front of me, like I said, but they're throwing clubs, they're just hacking around, not really paying attention, that would frustrate me, regardless if you're a new golfer or not.
Right.
And I think that's one thing I kind of draw the line is, like, if you're a new golfer and you're being respectful, I think I have a little more leniency in that. But if you're just hacking around and not paying attention, throwing clubs, just being a burden to the course, I think that's when I'm like, all right, let's get the ranger out here. Something has to be done.
Yeah, but a lot of courses aren't employing rangers anymore. You kind of cut, When's the last time you saw a ranger anywhere?
Iron Valley.
Iron Valley. Yeah, anywhere else? Nowhere else. I once was at a local course here, and we played on a Saturday morning. This is years ago, and it was one of those Saturday mornings. There was 2 groups of friends that were leading out like at 7 a.m. and we had teed off at 7:30. We got done at 12:30.
Wow.
And I didn't complain, but one of the groups in front of us, I heard complain to the guy that owns the course, and he said, blah blah blah. He said, well, don't fucking play here anymore. So that's the kind of attitude sometimes courses have. They don't care if they get 150 rounds of choppers out there.
Yeah.
They got 150 rounds that day. They don't care. Yeah. 6 hours of play. Dolphin Highlands that day we were there. It was 6 hours of play. Yeah.
Okay, so the next topic on our journey here is there is some changes to the USGA rules in the handicap index for the 2024 season. There's 3 main changes. One has to do with 9-hole scores being added to handicap index, and the other one, treatment of a score when you don't play a full 18, maybe 10 holes or 15 holes. But the one I want to touch on is the third big change. It's the minimum length of a golf course for a course to obtain a handicap rating.
Right.
And so the rule change for 2024 is The minimum tee length to be issued, a course rating and a slope rating to 1,500 yards for 18 holes or 750 yards for 9 holes. So as a result of this change, more than 600 additional golf courses, mostly par 3 courses, qualify for a course rating and slope rating if desired, if they wanted to do that. So the shortening of the overall yardage allows all these other courses to be included, which takes us back to our original point, the golf ball rollback. And this is where I think the USGA completely contradicts themselves, because one of their reasons they list for this change is, in recent years, more short courses are being built and shorter length tees are being added at full length courses to accommodate players of all abilities. So why are we putting forward tees, right? If golf courses are putting forward tees to accommodate players, why are we just going to take, it seems like a 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of thing. We're going to put forward tees there, but now we're going to roll the golf ball back.
Right. Yep. Or, you know, another forward tee costs money to a golf course. So growing extra grass never costs money. So instead of a rollback, tighten the fairways, put more hazards out there to hit into, a bunker, or, you know, let your grass grow.
Yeah.
But then again, pace of play.
Yeah.
You know, you have 3-inch rough because you're trying to make the golf course more difficult. Par 3 courses are great courses for beginners to learn the fundamentals of the swing, because they're hitting wedges and 9 irons and 8 irons to these 90 to 150 yard holes. Well, if you figure a 1,500 yard course, if you had, you know, 18 holes, what could you have? Maybe a couple, maybe 120s and the rest under 100, right? So I just don't like the fact that they're going to include them in the handicap system. I don't like it because it's not the way. When you go to a real course, they're handicapped. There could be a 6 or 7 because they're that good with their clubs. Should you get a 400 yard par 4 in front of you, now what do you do?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and is a par 3 course really reflective of a handicap?
No.
I
don't think so, but I understand there.
But let's say you get a scratch golfer that goes to these par 3 courses and just plays phenomenally well, right? Because it's all wedges and putting. And now they show that they're a +3 or a +4 in the handicap system. They're like, well, I'm a great golfer, you know, but are you actually a +3 handicap?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Or vice versa.
I don't understand why people sandbag good or bad.
Yeah.
So people sandbag good. Like, I know we give putts when we play, and I say like I'm a 5 or 6 handicap, but truly I'm probably a 6, right? Because I make those 5 4-foot putts. You've seen me make those hundreds of times in a row. So when I pick a 3-footer up, it's not like, oh, Dad probably would have made that anyway.
Yeah.
I don't keep my handicap. You know, I just know I'm going to probably score 5 to 8 over probably every time I tee it up. Yeah, I have my 86s and 85s.
Yeah, everybody does.
But I have my 71s and 72s creep in there too. So I don't understand why people cheat on their score to make their handicap better, or cheat on their score to make their handicap worse.
Yeah.
So I remember Eric telling me one time that he had to keep his handicap up because he's going to go play a member guest with his son down in Delaware. Like, well, why don't you keep your handicap up? Well, I get better strokes. Well, that's not. To me, that's not what the handicap system was designed to do. Then you watch the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, and you got Aaron Rodgers, who's a 10.
Yeah.
On Pebble Beach, but he's a 4 back at his home course. And he shoots a 75 in his own ball, and they shoot 40 under for the team. Like, come on. I just don't. Handicap to me shouldn't be used as a metric in a tournament ever.
No, not in a tournament, but if you're playing with a buddy, right, I guess, like, it makes sense if they keep a handicap. But that's the whole other thing. You have to pay to keep a handicap. And I think when we're talking about growing the game and barriers to the game, golf is a game that is very expensive when it doesn't really have to be. But it feels like everything in golf is tied to some sort. Like, why can't your handicap be free? right? Like, why can't the USGA just allow you to punch in your scores? You see the slope rating, you got the course rating,
right,
and it spits you out a number. Like, why do I have to, and it's a donation based, right? So like, I pay to keep mine up because I want to see how I fare against, you know, the courses that are actually rated. So it could be a par 72, but what if it's rated as a 75, right? And I like to see that difference, and I like to see what I'm truly going and helping my game get better. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of people that sandbag either way to either prove they're a really good golfer when they're not, or vice versa. They want to add strokes to the game.
Yeah. One time, quick story, one of the guys at school likes to golf a lot and brags how good of a golfer he is, and asked me one time, hey, would I be able to play with you guys, you know, keep up with you guys and play a match? I'm like, sure, come on out sometime, you can play with us. He goes, how many shots you give me? I'm like, none. He's like, why? I said, well, if you want to come play with us, you're going to play scratch. We don't give shots.
Depending on what we're doing, right? If it's a scramble or whatever, but like,
no, this was what,
straight up,
like straight up, you know, match play like we play when Kevin and I, and Billy and Chris or Keith would play over at Fairview every day. We, you know, team up, two of us, you know, me and Kevin versus Billy and Keith, and we'd play, you know, $2 Nassau, big deal, right? But there was no shots, even though Kevin was probably a 4 or 5 handicap. He's a good golfer, and I'm the same caliber. And Keith and Billy were the same caliber as well. I would say they're both like 8 to 10 handicappers, but we weren't giving Keith and Bill shots.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you just play.
Yeah.
Where normal, you would say, okay, if I'm a 5 and Kevin's a 5 and they're both 10s, well, they each get 5 shots on holes now to make it equitable. No. You know, you're playing a match, you're doing better ball, right? And you're playing a match play. So I just don't like the idea that if I go in a league and I'm a 5 handicap and it cuts down to, you know, for a par 9-hole league play, and I got a guy that I'm playing now 12, I got to give him 5 shots because it cuts it in half. You know, I get mine cut in half, he gets his cut in half, now I got to give him 4 or 5 shots. Come on. You know, now I gotta shoot 4 under almost to keep up with his stroke play, because there's no way he's a 12. It's probably inflated. That's what I don't like about the handicap system. Guys that inflate their handicap, they go to these tournaments and they get shots. Yeah. You know, and then they shoot, you know, 76. You're like, come on, you're a 14 handicap, you shot 76 at Iron Valley. Give me a break. Yeah. Well, when I was in the business, when we had a tournament like that. We would flight a tournament. We might have 60 golfers, right? And have it like a 2-day, 36-hole tournament. So you flight the first round. So you flight the first round, and you have a guy that shoots 85 the first round. He's in the third flight, and then turns into 77 the second, or 75 or 76. Yeah. If you betted your score by 8 shots, we automatically put you in the championship flight, no matter where you fell. Oh, wow. So they knew that going in. So you can't shoot 92.75 because automatically you're in first flight. Yeah. So at 92 now, you're almost probably 12, maybe even more strokes behind the middle of that pack. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's something we would do at our course when we had those types of tournaments. And I never liked the fact that you flight something. That's why I won't play in the county amateur, because they flight it and you see scores 90.75 and the guy wins the 4th flight. Well, big fucking deal, right? You won the 4th flight. It should be across the board. You want to play in the county amateur, you shoot 100 to 102, that's your score. Your guy scores 202, you didn't play well. Yeah. You know, not 184 and win the 5th flight. Right. So that's why I won't play in those ever. Yeah. Interesting. So, quick side note.
Excuse me. All right, well, speaking of your time in, you know, golf, you have some pretty interesting stories. Oh, man. Is there any stories you wanted to share?
A couple I could share. Probably the funniest one I ever encountered. I was assistant professional down in the Philly area, and their municipal courses at FDR Golf Course, which is near the old Spectrum and Vet. Okay. So, you know, Franklin Field area down there. So in that park, there was a golf course, and I was a 3rd assistant there when I started, and by the time I left, I was a 1st assistant. And I became the local club professional, like the head guy. So This is down in South Philly. So we had 25 to 30 guys that would come to the course every day, old Italian guys. And they'd be there every morning at 6:30 in the morning, and they would leave till like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I think their wives kicked them out and said, don't come back till 4 o'clock. So there was this one guy, his name is Vince, an ex-Marine, like 6'5", got these piercing blue eyes, a real good guy once you got to know him. So I'm in the pro shop, and I think it's February, late February, early March. And Bobby Gata, this little Irish guy, comes running in the pro shop, and he's out of breath. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, Vince is out there shooting up the 14th green. I'm like, what? So we had a couple cops that would play regularly on a Saturday and Sunday, and a couple of nefarious guys who carry guns in their bag. And so I drive out there, and I walk up on the green, and there's bullet holes around the hole. 6 of them. And I went to Vince, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He goes, I'm sorry, Kerry, I'm so pissed off. So they're playing a match, right? Okay. And they're playing $50 skins, okay. Right? These guys had decent money, so they're playing because they're all retired. And it was like a $300 skin. So in the wintertime, when you cut the cups in the fall and you leave them there and it defrosts and so you get this little volcano, and all you golfers know this happens in February, March. You get that little volcano, the ball rolls up and stops. Yeah. Well, apparently he had like a 10, 15-foot putt for birdie to win the hole, and it rolled up and it rolled backwards. So Gene the cop, Tony the cop, had the Italian, and Bobby are getting ready to putt, and all of a sudden they hear boom, boom, boom. And there's Vince standing there. He's trying to shoot his ball into the hole.
Oh my gosh.
I said, Frank is going to kick your ass when he sees this. He's like, I'll talk to him. But one of the craziest stories I've ever, and you can't make this shit up because it's just one of those, yeah.
So you got a free aeration for your green.
Yeah, so he apologized to Frankie. Vince was intimidating. He's one of those guys you look at and go, I don't care how tough you think you are, you're not messing with that guy. Because he was, like I said, 6'5", piercing blue eyes. My very first day working there, these guys would play in the morning. They had like a tee time slot from like 7:45 to 8:45. Okay. They always had foursomes. They always had 5 to 6 foursomes, maybe even 7 that would play every Saturday and Sunday. Wow. And go out and play. And they put guys in the hat, and you have an A player, B player, C player, D player, and you go play a match every Saturday and Sunday. $5 Nassau's, right? And birdies, I think, were $2. So you'd pay out everything. So they would come in, eat lunch, and then go back out and play another 9-hole scramble. So all of a sudden you see like a mass of carts take off. So they go to the back 9. Now they're jumping in front of people. Oh, wow. That's a Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. So Ron says, Kerry, go get their money. I'm like, what? He goes, they all owe $5 for carts. I'm like, all right. So I drive out, and the 10th tee is on Fairmount Avenue, so you have to drive about, 600 yards to get there. Now they're all standing, there's like 20 of them standing on the 10th tee. And a couple guys are teeing off. I pull up, and I walk up, and Vince comes walking. I don't know this guy now. Yeah. You tell that little fat fuck to get out here and get his own fucking money, don't send you to get it. I'm like, all right. Got back in my car, drove out, and I said, Ron's like, what did he say? I'm like, you don't know, I know what they said, but they're not paying. He goes, you go back out there and get that money. So I'm like, fuck. Drive back out there. Now, Frankie Staya was a big, fat Italian guy, one of the nicest guys you ever meet in the world. I come up, he walks up, and he goes, listen, we play here every Saturday and Sunday from March till October. Can't Ron cut us a break every once in a while and let us play for free? We pay almost every time. We just decided. I said, look, my first day, man, I don't want to. He's going to send me back out here anyway, so give me your money. If I'm ever in a position to afford that to you, I will. So like 2 or 3 months later, I moved up to second assistant because our first assistant left. And Ron started giving me more responsibility, so I started closing at night, right? He was sick one Sunday. So he put me in charge because the first assistant was away. So I was in charge of closing up. So I started at like 1 that day. So I came in and they're out there milling around, and Sonny walks up and says, hey kid, we're gonna play. I'm like, guys, go. And from that day forward, I was in. You know what I mean? Like, I was one of the guys. I never paid for a lunch after that. So they would go out and have lunches. The guys, the regular guys, would come there on like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They would, like, Monday was like, oh, we're going to Geno's for cheesesteaks. Tuesday, we're going for this. What do you want, kid? And I was the kid. That might be the name. I don't know. I started putting, nope, you never pay. From that day forward, you never pay. So I'm like, oh, wow. Bunch of great guys, bunch of characters, but man, you know, just some of this, I could just sit here and tell stories for hours and stuff. Like Sonny was a kleptomaniac. He would try to steal all the time. And we knew it, and we never pressed charges against him because he'd always return whatever he stole because we called him most of the time. It'd be like mostly steals of balls. Yeah. But one day, I see him walking across the pro shop like a peg leg, like a pirate. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, nothing. I'm like, you got a club down your pants, don't you? I said, I'm gonna go back to the room, the gripping room, and when I come back, I think you have the new driver we just put out there. That better be back on the rack, or I'm calling the mounted police, because in the park they had the mounted police guys and horses. So I'm calling them guys. So I go back in the grip room and come out 2 minutes later, and he's sitting there eating. I'm like, you put that club back? He just said, I never had a club. So I'm like, all right, whatever, Sonny. Yeah. Oh man, what a wild time. It was a wild time. Well, thanks again for sitting with us. Appreciate it. Hey, guys, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, share. Let us know your favorite story, or if you have some additional rules you want us to talk about, please leave it in the comments. I will chop up the segments and leave them in the description below so you can fast forward to the place you want to listen to. Thanks again, Skip. Yeah, appreciate it. And this is Hartman Golf signing out.